What a timely article this is. I have been hearing about this recently, but I had heard confused reports. It really is alarming. Now that medical science can determine the gender of a fetus in the womb, this has many more disastrous consequences than beneficial. In a society like Korea or China, where the Yu-Gi-Oh superstition, with some economic considerations, favored males over females, where the position of the female has always been secondary, subordinate. When parents, for various reasons, mostly superstition, I think, can find out that the fetus is female, very often they're aborting that fetus. They're having abortions, so that the number of males being born greatly outnumbers the number of females. This is disaster in every way. It's hard to see how it's a good thing in any way. The ratio is now, according to this article, for every 100 girls that are born, 109 boys are born. In China, this is much worse. For every 100 girls that are born, 111 boys are born. And in some provinces in China, 100 to 130. Well, this really is a disaster. And on what is it based? Traditionally, people wanted boys because they worked on the farms, and male labor was more desirable than female labor for farm agricultural productivity. Girls got married. Parents had to give a dowry to the girl when she got married, and this was a costly thing. And this just cheapened women that much more. Now, what are some of these consequences? Some of them are economic. Fewer babies are born. People are living longer. Now, consider this. I had to reread this to understand this, but of course, if fewer babies are born, the birth rate is down. That means there are fewer younger people taking care of more elderly people, because people live longer. So this is economically and socially a disaster, a catastrophe. Just to illustrate this, inevitably this will exacerbate, make worse and irritate the so-called generation gap. There's always tension between elderly and young, at least some conflict. Even in a society like Korea, which honors the elderly, at least in theory. But when economics gets involved here, this is going to be disastrous, because this will mean fewer younger people paying huge amounts of money to support a social system which takes care of elderly people, specifically in medicine. Medical charges will be huge. And I would expect more frequent euthanasia, that is mercy killings. This in turn erodes the moral kind of sensitivity of people. That is, if younger people basically feel contempt for elderly people, the origin of this contempt economic, this will erode the kind of moral fiber of people, that is, elderly people. Now, an article that I used to teach, an essay I used to teach, maybe the best essay I've ever read, was entitled Aging in the Land of the Young. This essay is now about 25 years old, written by a woman, and the point was, the focus of her article was America, and she accused America of being a culture that worshipped youth, which was, and in part is still true, worshipped youth. What she meant by that was there was huge, women especially, but males too, and women too, felt huge pressure to remain looking young, to remain attractive, youthful is the main point. And so cosmetic products, cosmetic surgery even, you recognize the pattern because, of course, this is found in Korea too. Okay, now she examined this and she decided that what really underlay this perception was a fear of aging and of death. It's not that people love youth, it's that they fear aging and death. Now, she examined, this is a 4-page essay, short pages, a 3-page essay. Brilliant. Sharon Curtin is the woman's name, Aging in the Land of the Young. Anyway, she decided that part of this was the erosion of the family, the extended family. That is, in farming communities, let's say farming communities in America, the parents stayed with the family. So children grew up knowing, being familiar with, liking their grandparents. And of course this has been true in Korea too, though it's certainly subject to change. But when that stopped happening, then one big element in this was when I grow up as a little child and my grandparents are there, I know them, I'm close to them maybe, ideally, but I also watch them age and I watch them die. And that experience, the experience of watching people age, confront their aging, accept their aging, and actually dying, greatly reduces the mystery of aging and death. But if I have no elderly people around, especially ones whom I love maybe, to watch aging and dying, then for me the process of aging and dying becomes more mysterious, more frightening, more intimidating, because unthinkable. I haven't watched it, I haven't seen it. And that in turn produces this fear of aging and death, and that in turn produces this obsessive desire to remain young, or youthful looking at least, because it's founded on fear. It's not founded on vanity, and anyway, the foundation of vanity is fear anyway. I'll like to discuss that with you sometime. Okay, now, so, back to our Korean society. 1, fewer young people taking care of many older people, huge tensions and conflicts, economic uncertainty, economic strain. 1. 2, well, of course there are fewer babies because there are fewer females having babies. Okay. 3 interests me most. Increase in sex crimes and prostitution. I know this is not you're young people, but you have to face some of these problems. And you see it, you watch TV, you watch movies. These are not mysteries to you. If you have lots of males around who are not married or who are not married and can't find a marriage partner, then presumably these men will turn to prostitutes or commit sex crimes. Now, I'm not sure I accept that. I think it probably is true, though. But who will these prostitutes be? If there are lots of men around looking for wives, then presumably there won't be so many prostitutes around. But that whole scenario is a difficult one, full of obscurities, full of psychological forces, subconscious forces that are frightening anyway, because so uncontrollable. Libido and misogynism, hatred of women, that will be increased, certainly. Hatred of women will increase. Hatred of women is already a phenomenon in every society. That's a scary topic which I think I'll discuss now. Misogynism is a frightening force, and I think I've discussed it maybe before, but it's everywhere, and it shows it manifests itself in many ways. Least of all, I think, economics, because that's just about money and power. But hatred of women, look around, from these serial killers who are always men who kill women. When's the last time we had a serial female killer who killed men? No. This rage felt against women is especially happens especially in men who hate prostitutes, because they are all mixed up about their sexuality, about purity. Often religious nonsense gets involved in this psychological labyrinth too. It's a scary thing. But anyway, in this scenario, the level of misogyny, of hatred of women, is certain to increase. Sex crimes, yes, against women, of course. This is a scary world. And all because of this stupid superstition that says it's better to have a son than a daughter. Nonsense. Nonsense. Another topic that is raised here is, well, maybe the men can import foreign women to be their wives. But here Korean nationalism expresses itself. And I'd like to say a word about that. Throughout history, Korea, a small country surrounded by one big giant, of course, who usually didn't totally swallow you up, Korea, to maintain itself racially, ethnically, Koreans had to marry Koreans. Intermarriage, marriage with foreigners, was a crime almost, because you were concerned about the preservation, just the preservation of your race. Very similar to Jews in the West, by the way, who have always been very strict, or tried to be, conservatives, about marrying only Jews. Same reason, preservation. But now that there are 70 million of you, I don't think extinction is very near. I think this nonsense should cease. But that's just think about it. I mean, you don't face extinction. There's 70 million of you. That's a lot of people. So, but I don't know. We get into more Yu-Gi-Oh stuff there. That I keep mentioning Yu-Gi-Oh as if Yu-Gi-Oh is the bad guy, but Yu-Gi-Oh is the conservative, reactionary desire to stop the clock, turn the clock back in many ways. Sometimes maybe that would be healthy, because look around. The westernization of Korea is a scary thing. Good in some ways, in my opinion, good in more ways than bad. Democracy and capitalism are the two best examples of this. But bad certainly in many ways. Pornography and choose your bad thing. Fast food restaurants. But these are minor things. These are weight, obesity. These are minor phenomena. And really what we're talking about here is this Yu-Gi-Oh doing something much more harmful than any good it does, frankly. This contempt for women, this basically misogyny, and especially as it affects the gender of one's children. That's a disaster. And I see no reason to think that it won't happen. It will happen. It's irreversible. Unless many people become, I think we can use the word enlightened, because we're talking about ignorance versus enlightenment here, I think. Unless many people become more enlightened. Now, in your society, of course, your social structure perpetuates this. That is, if a girl is born, if I have only daughters, then my name dies. In Korea, my name dies. A patrilinear society that depends so much on the perpetuation of the family name, this is a disaster. But this is what I'm talking about. This, I don't know, is this Yu-Gi-Oh? I assume it is. People can't think that way. The consequences are too disastrous. I can't, as a father, worry about having only sons. Okay, if I have one son and one daughter, okay. One son, two daughters, but not two sons and one daughter. This is not good. Koreans are going to have to think this way for nationalistic reasons. for the preservation of your society, for the well-being of your society, you're going to have to get away from this this superstition. Sorry, that's what it is. Male superstition. I don't think you will. As long as Chuseok and Seollal exist, you won't. So this is going to happen. This is a disaster which will almost inevitably happen to Korea, I think.